I thought I'd heard it all, until I found out about the Hello Kitty murder. A case so gruesome, so surreal, that even seasoned detectives had to leave the room. It wasn't just a crime. It was a nightmare that unfolded inside a cheap apartment in Hong Kong, where a Hello Kitty doll became a horrifying symbol of torture and death. It all started in 1999, in the bustling district of Tsim Sha Tsui. A 23-year-old nightclub hostess named Man-yee had been missing for weeks. Friends and co-workers were worried, but the police weren't rushing. Fan had a troubled past, including drug use and petty theft, and people like her often disappeared. But this time, she hadn't just disappeared. The case only came to light when a 14-year-old girl walked into a Hong Kong police station trembling with fear. She told officers she was being haunted, literally, by the ghost of a woman who was tortured and murdered. At first, they brushed it off as superstition. But her story was too specific, too chilling, and it would lead to one of the most horrific discoveries in the city's history. The girl was the girlfriend of a local triad member, one of 3 men responsible for Fan's abduction. She claimed she had witnessed things no child should ever see: torture, beatings, chains, and a severed head sewn inside a life-sized Hello Kitty mermaid doll. That wasn't a metaphor. It was the truth. Police raided a dilapidated 3rd-floor apartment. What they found was something out of a horror movie. Dirty walls, chains bolted to furniture, bloodstains, and in the corner, a giant Hello Kitty doll that didn't belong in a child's room. When they opened it, Fan Man-yee's skull was staring back at them. The full story slowly unraveled during interrogation. Fan had apparently stolen a wallet from a triad member named Chan Man-lok. To punish her, he and 2 accomplices kidnapped her and held her captive for over a month. During that time, she was beaten with metal bars, forced to eat human feces, and burned with melted plastic. This wasn't just a revenge crime. It was sadism. They treated her like an object. They filmed parts of it. The 14-year-old girl admitted she was sometimes forced to take part in the abuse. Other times, she just watched, frozen in fear. She said Fan's screams echoed through the building for weeks, and no one did anything. Fan eventually died. Whether from the torture itself or from a drug overdose remains unclear. But instead of hiding the body, the men dismembered her and boiled her skull. They sewed it into the doll as a macabre trophy. Her organs were never found. Her soul, the girl believed, was trapped and angry. The press went wild. Dubbed the Hello Kitty murder, the case sent shockwaves through Asia and beyond. But when the trial began, the legal system failed to deliver full justice. The men were not convicted of murder. Instead, they were found guilty of manslaughter, because the exact cause of death couldn't be determined. People were outraged. How could a crime this grotesque not result in a murder charge? The defense argued that Fan's death may have been unintentional. But the evidence, the abuse, the corpse desecration, the teenager's testimony, painted a much darker picture. Still, the men received life sentences, with the possibility of parole. As the trial played out, the 14-year-old girl became both a witness and a victim. She was granted immunity in exchange for her testimony. Her haunting descriptions of the torture were crucial to the case. But the trauma followed her. She later admitted to nightmares, hallucinations, and deep guilt for not doing more to stop it. Reporters swarmed the courtroom. Psychiatrists weighed in, calling the crime a unique blend of gang violence, child corruption, and psychopathy. The media focused heavily on the bizarre Hello Kitty imagery, turning a child's toy into a symbol of unimaginable horror. It was the contrast that made it so terrifying. In the years that followed, the apartment was abandoned. Locals claimed it was cursed. Ghost hunters visited. Some said they heard screams from inside. Others saw the doll staring out the window. Whether you believe in spirits or not, one thing was clear: That apartment would never be a normal place again. The case raised uncomfortable questions. How could neighbors ignore the screams? Why did no one report the sounds of abuse? And why did it take a ghost story from a teenager for anyone to pay attention? In a city of millions, Fan Man-yee's pain went unheard. Until it was too late. Fan wasn't a celebrity. She wasn't rich. She was a woman with a troubled past trying to get her life together. And in many ways, that's what made this crime so chilling. She could have been anyone. And her killers? They weren't criminal masterminds, just men with power and no conscience. The Hello Kitty murder became a case study in law schools and criminology classes. It showed how even in modern cities, pure evil can hide in plain sight. It exposed cracks in the justice system and reminded the world that some stories are too disturbing to forget, no matter how hard we try. Years later, the girl, now a grown woman, gave one final interview. She didn't want fame. She didn't want pity. She just wanted people to know that Fan was real, that her suffering mattered, that even though her body was desecrated, her story deserved to be told with dignity, not just horror. Many true crime stories fade over time, but this one sticks. Maybe it's the twisted use of a child's doll. Maybe it's the ghostly twist that first brought it to light. Or maybe it's because it reminds us how darkness often hides behind the most innocent-looking masks. The apartment is long gone now, demolished. The doll is locked away. The men who committed the crime still sit behind bars, though parole could come one day. But no one who's heard this story walks away the same. It stays with you, like a whisper in the dark, like the stare of stitched plastic eyes. Fan Man-yee didn't get justice in the way the world hoped, but her story continues to haunt the internet, courtrooms, and minds of anyone who's heard it. If this story shook you, consider subscribing for more chilling true crime cases like this. Because sometimes, the most terrifying monsters aren't in the shadows. They're right next door,